for using project managers to help companies get into this century, pretty accurate, and prepare for the next. But that's not what I'm going to talk about, because he can do that. What I want to talk about is something much more important, and that's something that John and I talked about last night called character. So, last February, we decided to put the next one on hold. And I was pushed back a little, that maybe we should do a hybrid version, maybe we should do something online. And I went out to San Jose, California, to see my granddaughter and my son and his wife, and talked to a couple of tech companies out there. And it just didn't seem right. We're all about being personal, do something virtually. So made the decision not to do it, put this on hold. It was 5 a.m. California time, and I had to call Tony and tell him we were not going forward. And he had an extra time. And we had just come off Chris McDonald's wonderful event here with Mexico, so there was a high, right? So I get up in the morning, I get up around 4:30, and I don't know what the hell I'm going to tell you, because you wanted to do it. I didn't. Most of the partners were kind of not sure which way to go. So I look out the window, and I'm at the base of the hill of a wildfire. And there's fires about 1 mile from my son's house. The Minadakis fire station was where they were evacuating people. So one, I think the house is going to burn down. Now I got to tell this guy, who's been the most loyal partner, that we're going to stick this in the shelf for about 3-4 months maybe. We'll come back in July and be fine. So Tony said 2 things to me. He said, number one, I got your back. You've been around this business. You've been around this town. This is our town. We were born here. Fun fact, my father was born about a mile from where he grew up. They both went to St. Anthony's Church, Church of Little Flower. We go back years. So we're not going anywhere, and we're going to wait it out. And number two, when we come back, I'm going to host the event. And it's going to be bigger, stronger, and better than ever. So that's character. And I can't explain everything they can do. They got books, and they'll do that. But I can explain. You want to talk about the character of Fig and Tony, come see me. You want to talk about the technical stuff, come see me. So, with that being said, Tony Grubel, our host this morning.
I took the time to actually write down a few thoughts about this morning. I want to thank Mike, Insight Connects, for allowing us to do this. I promised Mike that I wouldn't use a lot of foul language this morning.
That's not the job.
Is that what I think John will set a new standard for us, I suppose. Thank you, Mike, Tony, Insight. So we wanted to show our appreciation to all you folks who come out here. I mean, this is the biggest event that Mike has ever thrown for Insight Connects. And I'm amazed. Thank you. The only table in front of you is a small card that says Think On. Small envelope. If you'll open that envelope, there might be some tables that don't have it because we were oversubscribed. And if you'll just let us know that you didn't get one, we'll make sure that you get one. So, if you open that card up, you'll find a movie ticket. Last year in October, Pink was hired by Sundance Film Festival. Sundance had always been an in-person event, traditionally throughout its entire history. And they needed to move from in-person to 100% digital in order to be successful after last year's event. Erica McQuiston, who is our director of consulting at this table over here, she led a team of operations and technology folks to help Sundance bring that virtual event on, and they made it an amazing success. And Erica continues to work with that team, our team there, and the Sundance team, in preparation for the 2022 event. So what we wanted to do is make sure that all of our friends, who I think is more of we're friends, we do a lot of work together, but we hang out together too. So Mike Spinoza, president of Unleashed Technologies, is here as well. And he and I often find ourselves over at Brian Wolf's company called The Country out in Timonium. If anybody hasn't heard of The Country, you should really look into this place. It's 60,000 square foot of just fun. So talk to Brian. I wanted to welcome Mike here as well. So thank you for coming. So thanks for all your support. Thanks for being here. And now, on to the main event. I wish I had a better boxer announcer voice for that.
He was too expensive. The Rumble guy.
There you go. So 18 months ago, we are all shut down. I look around the room, and what I see is survivors. 18 months of being shut down, and I see survivors. There are many who didn't survive the last 18 months. And there are a few of us that not only survived, but excelled. So John Minadakis did more than just survive over 18 months. He exited the pandemic, and I was at Jimmy's Famous Seafood a few days ago, and I was talking to one of his 160 employees there across their 5 lines of different business, and I just asked, what's it like to work for John? And she said, he's family. I was like, oh, he's family. She's like, no, he's not family. He's family. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. This is the kind of family that is earned, right? Over and over again, one action after another. I was so impressed by that. John took over Jimmy's in 2003 when his dad passed away. He's a son of an immigrant, living in Dundalk, above the restaurant. He attended Loyola Lakefield, then went to Loyola College. Loyola Lakefield evidently kept him out of trouble, right? Kept him on the straight and narrow. Calvert Hall would have done the same thing. It's okay. It's all good. But he was always working in the family business. So once he took over, he had to make a decision. Was Jimmy's going to be a crab shack, which was what it was in Dundalk, or was it going to be something more than that? He took Jimmy's from Dundalk Crab Shack to national Jimmy's Famous Crab Cakes. He now has multiple lines of business. He's in partnership with Major League Sports and McCormick Spice. I think Jimmy, at 38 years old, is one of the guys that you're going to see soar in the next 20 years around town. He's a no-excuses guy who knows exactly who he is. To me, just going to say this, he's the Spartan of Baltimore, and you're going to find out why. He's practiced enough over the last 18 years to do a bare naked choke in business, and yet he's still humble and giving. So when I told you a few minutes ago that he didn't just survive, he thrived. He actually went even beyond that. John helped 31 restaurants. 31 survive the pandemic. So here, to tell that story, please welcome the Spartan warrior of Baltimore, John Minadakis.
I talk with my hands, so I asked for a non Good morning. It is very early for many people, especially people in my industry, and I'm definitely extremely honored to be here today. As I previously mentioned, and was mentioned, I come from an extremely humble background, in my opinion. Both of my parents were immigrants, and they came here not knowing the language, uneducated, just with their hands and their work ethic and their word. So when my dad's looking down and you see moments like this, I know that this is the American dream. My father was the American dream, and so many people left Asia, Italy, in our case Greece, to come here just for this, for the opportunity, for the chance that their kids, and in many cases in the crowd today, their grandkids, just to have the opportunity to excel. So I'm so happy to be here and share my story with you. I am John Minadakis. I am the proud owner of Jimmy's Famous Seafood, and I was born and raised in Baltimore, in Charm City, as mentioned, right on top of Jimmy's Famous Seafood. I literally live on top of that place, so it's my life. And since I was a little kid, I always knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted to be, and most importantly, I knew how to make it happen. Everything that I've ever wanted to accomplish in my life, I've been able to accomplish. Now, it's not because I was the most talented, it's not because I was the most athletic, it's not because I was the smartest, and as much as it pains me to say this, staying up here today, it's not because I was always the best looking. But it was because I knew every day that nobody was going to outwork me. No matter how old I was, no matter what room you put me in, nobody was going to outwork me. And I knew how to create a process and how to make things happen. As I stand here before you today, it wasn't always like this. I've been through hell. Just, driving up here today on 83, I remember being on the side of the road, and all my credit cards were maxed out. I couldn't afford gas, and I was trying to push it to make it to school, to borrow money from one of my friends to get gas after school. Had BG&E outside Jimmy's after my dad died, trying to cut off the power, and I was just begging them not to do it. The reason why I don't have a Verizon cell phone to this day is because they used to cut the phone service off at Jimmy's. If we didn't pay the bill on time, people couldn't call their carrier. And as I'm going to reference later, it got a little personal with Verizon. I did not know that this was where business is personal was the mindset and the motto here, but it's personal with Verizon, and everything should be personal. I had lifelong employees that worked for my father, turned their backs on me when he died. I had friends turn their backs on me. I've had family members tell me that I was in the way with my head, to sell it, to get what I could for it, and I'll never forget it. Those scars are a part of me. I think everybody that's in this room knows that you get scars throughout the way when you're in business, and when you're starting your own business, and when you're taking over a business. And it's hard to describe those scars to anybody that's not in the trenches with you. Anytime that I have a big moment in my life, actually, I just close my eyes and I think about the tough times and the scars. And I was just, outside my car, and I was thinking about, the hell that I went through and the scars that I've accumulated over the years. It makes everything else seem like it was trivial. So, life can get a lot easier when you've been through hell. And don't look at me now and think it's always been like this. And don't think I'm the finished product either, because we are always evolving, we are always changing, we are always getting better. But I'll never go back to that, because I've been through that. And that's why, unfortunately, we see a lot of second-generation kids and third-generation kids in business just blow it, because if you haven't been through it, it's hard to describe. I've got that immigrant mentality in me. And, I hate to mention this, but just watching, if anybody knows who Conor McGregor is, immigrant, UFC fighter, MMA, and he was broke, he was poor, and he made it to America, and he made it to the pinnacle. Just this past week, he lost again, and it's fine to lose. As I always say, you either win or you learn. You don't always lose. He lost, and not because he was knocked out, not because he's been losing in the octagon, but he lost who he was. Instead of talking about his pride for Ireland, and instead of talking about where he came from and how hard was talking about mink jackets and private jets, and he lost who he was. And when you lose who you are, it's hard for you to move forward. It's hard for you to replicate that hunger. If you don't have that hunger, if you don't have that dog in you, you're nothing, you're finished. And we saw it with Connor, a guy that I once idolized, and you can't get that back. You have to go down the hill again to come back up. So, we always ask ourselves, who am I? And more importantly, what do I stand for? And the answer is obviously a very complicated one. Every day life's throwing hurdles at us, and it's throwing obstacles our way. But if you think about it, the chances are you probably also knew very young who you wanted to be and what mattered to you. We tend to identify our role models very young in life. Along the way, of course, we meet a lot of great mentors as well, profound impact on us. As the saying goes, if you surround yourself with excellence, you too will be excellent. My father would say, show me who your friends are, and I'll show you who you are. It's my belief that we become the sum of the 5 people that we idolize and care for the most. Now, obviously, you're not going to become a replica of any one of them. But think about that. Think about the 5 people that you idolize and admire, and think about how much they rubbed off on you, how much you tried to be a part of them. So I'm going to give you all 5 of my people along the way, and you'll see what kind of effect they've had on me and how it played into what we did recently. I know where I got my work ethic from, obviously from my father. I know where I got the idea of running my business like a family, not just saying it, but living it. And that's from the University of North Carolina's basketball coach, Roy Williams. I know why I've given so much of my life to helping other people, and that's because of the teachings of St. Ignatius of Loyola, and as mentioned, my education at Loyola Middle School and at Loyola High School. And I know there's some Dons in the crowd today, Grady Smith, greatest athlete in the history of the high school. And they've all molded me. Now that's who I decided to be. But now comes the hard part. How do you stick to those values and become that person? Because it's always easy to say, that's what I want to be when I grow up. The hard part, of course, is becoming that person. So how do we identify our values and stick to them? The first thing you have to do, in my opinion, is believe in a higher power. No matter what your religion is, you have to be centered. Now, in my case, I am Greek Orthodox, and I do believe in God. I believe in the plan that God has for me. So, obviously, at many points throughout the journey, you question the plan. When you see kids struggling, when you see diseases in children, when you see loved ones passing away, you're wondering what's going on. You know, if I'm supposed to believe in God, what's going on? And it's very important that you stay centered. And you have to believe in something. People always tend to find God or religion when they're down. You see people in prison always picking up the Bible. You see people when they're getting in legal trouble referencing Bible verses. It's important to keep that when you're at the top too. The more success that I have, the more I do things, because now while the cars are nice and the big houses are nice and the custom suits are nice, thank you, Jim, it doesn't mean anything. It's trivial. And as long as you're surrounded and you keep religion at the forefront, you realize that, and you realize that it's just lipstick on the beauty of life. And everybody in this room has been made unique. You're different from that person, you're different from that person, and not just in this room, but throughout the globe. So now you've got to take that religion, take that belief, take those tools that somebody gave you, and manifest that, and reach your potential. Now, potential is one thing, but you have the other 2 P's as well. Patience and passion. Now, the most important one to me is passion. Without passion, you're nothing. If you're not going to give it 100% every day, you'll never reach that potential. So both in business and in your personal life, be religious. Now, religious does not mean going to church every Sunday. Being religious does not mean knowing every single Bible verse. Being religious means knowing what the right thing is and doing it. As somebody once said, there's never a right time to do the wrong thing, and there's never a wrong time to do the right thing. And we've watched it throughout history. We've watched hubris, that dreaded Greek to when you were a child. Your parents invested everything they had. When I get back and help out with Lola, I see these kids, and they're so innocent. And somewhere along the way, life hardens you. But it's very important that we keep sight of what our parents wanted for us, and we have to keep making them proud, whether they're still living or whether they're dead. I lost my father when I was 20 years old, and it altered my way of thinking. No longer did I want to be upset that he wasn't going to be there to watch me grow up, that he wasn't going to be able to hold his grandkids, that he wasn't going to be there to watch me take his baby Jimmy's to the next level. Rather, I knew that now that he's up in heaven, I'm out of excuses. If I was thinking about hitting the snooze button, I knew he was watching. If I was thinking about taking the day off of work, I knew he was watching. So now I'm really in trouble, right? So what I have to do now is I know I have to outwork everybody, bust my ass every day, and make my dad proud. The same way everybody in this room needs to make their parents proud. Whether you're 11 years old, scoring 3 goals in a rec league soccer game, or closing a phenomenal business deal at 45 years old, you'll never have a bigger cheerleader than your parents. Your parents gave everything they had for you. So give them a reason to brag, whether it's at the barbershop, at the bar, or up in heaven. We should all be making our parents proud because they gave us everything. So never stick to the shortcut and always go the long way and make your parents proud by sticking to your core values. The third part of sticking to your values is probably my favorite part. I create a list, and these lists are non-negotiable, and there are rules and commandments. Everybody's got their own list, but you have to stick to it. And I like to think of when Mufasa told Simba the Lion King, remember who you are. So these are my 4 rules, and I'm really going to enjoy sharing these with you. And no exceptions to the rules. First and foremost, one strike and you're out. In business, in personal life, you get 1 strike. There's no 3-strike rule with me. Now, I do believe that people can change, and I do believe that people can change for the better, but don't let them do it when you're kind. Don't let them do it when you're dying. Hold people accountable for their actions. Be firm, be fair. And hand in hand with this belief is people won't always tell you how they feel about you, but they'll always show you. So when they give you that strike, get them out of your life. You stick to your guns, of course, word quickly spreads that you're a fair person, that you're a loyal person, and that your integrity is not for sale. My second rule, and I think this fits perfectly with what's going on here today, is support those who support you. I understand how many restaurants and bars people pass by to come to Jimmy's Seafood, and I never take that for granted. I go out of my way, check. Hello. All right. Got action. I'm going to talk with this. Good. All right. It's another curveball from life. Yeah, but as I referenced last night, I am a 38-year-old wrestling fan, and I have sick promo skills. All right. So support those who support you, and the ways you can do that is a multitude of ways, right? Especially with social media. Share their posts on social media. Spread the word. Send them gifts. Send them an encouraging text. No excuse not to do that these days. I always scroll through my phone, land with somebody I haven't talked to in a while, and send them some nice words. If they don't, if they're not supporting you, if you see your friends supporting somebody in the same field as you, I'm really going to enjoy telling you this. Tell them to get the fuck out. I mean that. They're taking food out of your mouth. They're taking food. I hate this. They're taking food out of your kid's mouth. Everybody hear me? Good? All right, check. Yeah? Hello? Are we good? All right, now this working again. Curveballs. Is this playing? They're taking food out of your kid's mouth. Taking food out of your mouth. And what they're telling you is, by not supporting your business, that you're not good enough for them. And chances are, they watched you build that baby up. They watched watch you work, blood, sweat, tears every day, and they're telling you you're not good enough for them. They don't care about you. They'd rather support a stranger than support their friend. You know, when I see a friend on Facebook or whatever social media term of the week is, having a crab cake, for example, up the street from their house, I don't care. Take the extra 10-minute drive and come down and see me. Oh, my kid had a soccer up. I don't give a shit. And even worse, you advertise it. So yeah, you're telling me, fuck you. So it's not fuck, it's fuck you, get out. You know, some people call it petty. Some people call it obsession. You know, I call it my livelihood. This is how my father fed me. This is how I can feed my kids one day. So it's not an obsession. It's, you know, Michael Jordan, I'm going to talk about MJ a lot. He said, you know, some people say that MJ was a tyrant. And MJ would say, no, he goes, that's you. Because you never won anything. And this is the way that we play the game. A third rule, is a Spartan mindset. And that's molon labe. Molon labe is a Greek term meaning come and take them. It goes back to the days of war. And created an us against the world mentality in your personal life and in your business life. And you got to live it every single day. You have to be very aggressive. No retreat and no surrender. The best way for me to describe this mindset is during our much heralded PETA Awards. And I think everybody in the room is aware of the PETA Awards a couple years ago. But for those that aren't familiar, PETA comes to Baltimore and they're telling people not to eat crabs, that it's inhumane, and obviously it's an attack on me. It's not only an attack on me, though, it's an attack on all of Maryland, because if it's not affecting you personally, it's definitely affecting the person next to you. The crabbing industry is everything here in Maryland, from the crab pickers, to the busboys that work in restaurants, to the crab meat sellers. Everybody at some point needs crab to pay their bills. So you put this billboard up, and I'm looking around, and I'm asking, you know, my friends in the industry, what are we going to do about this? And everybody's scared. You can't mess with PETA, man. They got a lot of money. You know, it's very controversial. So I gave it about 18 hours. Nothing happened. And, you know, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. So the war started, and it was Jimmy's against PETA. And the rest, I guess, is history. You know, we saw the billboards, we saw the tweets, we saw the helicopter flying over their headquarters, we drove to their front door, and there was a war, and we never backed down. There was a lot of pressure on us to back down. People were threatening to boycott Jimmy's. My answer to everybody was, if you don't want to come here, I'll replace your seat with 2 others. Because I was confident in my brand. You know, I knew what I had been through, and this was lightweight for me at the time. What followed, of course, was PETA retreating, with their tail between their legs. But to this day, me sticking to my guns, me sticking to my morals, me doing the right thing, and me taking no prisoners has benefited not only me, but all my employees substantially. Anytime I wear my Jimmy shirt out of town, or at an airport, or, hey, you're the PETA guys, right? Like, yeah, we're the PETA guys, and we also ship crab cakes to make sure you don't understand. But it was a direct result of, you know, me being the voice of the voiceless at the time. And of course, after it took off, suddenly everybody else wanted to get into, hey, John, you guys need any help with PETA? We're like, that. You had your chance, man. You're out. You had your strike. You're out of here. And being the voice of the voiceless. And, you know, that'll come into play again with the famous one. All right, my fourth rule, my fourth commandment, and we touched on it briefly, is everything is personal. Everything is personal. There's no, it's just business. No, it's personal. You just make it personal. So my fourth biggest influence, and not that there are any order, is in fact Michael Jordan. Now, I obviously don't look like Michael Jordan. I'm not as athletic or as rich as Michael Jordan, but I definitely got my tenacity as a kid from Michael Jordan. And, you know, during COVID, during lockdown, everybody watched the Last Dance documentary, or most people did anyways. And there was a part in that where a former teammate of MJ's, B.J. Armstrong, who did sell out MJ and went to another team, was asked, was MJ a nice guy? And he says, no. Was he a nice guy? He said, with the mentality that he had, he couldn't have been a nice guy. If you didn't truly love the game of basketball, he will be difficult to be around. He was difficult. Now think about that. Is there something wrong with loving something so much that you demand the best out of the people around you? No. There's weakness. The guy is weak, and he had to be taken out. And if it came at the expense of MJ being considered a nice guy, I think he's okay with that. You know, if us demanding the best out of the people around us, around the people close to us, paints us as a tyrant, as not a nice guy, I think we're all okay with that. So MJ comes in and he sees the comment and he said, do you think your success, your mindset has come at the expense of you not being labeled as a nice guy? And he says, well, and this is probably my favorite quote today. It says, winning has a price and leadership has a price. Leadership does have a price, and it gives us their stars. MJ, he pulled people along when they didn't want to be pulled. He challenged people when they didn't want to be challenged. And when they asked him why, he says, they came after me. My teammates came after me. They didn't endure all the things that I endured. Once you join this team, you live at a certain standard that I play the game, and I didn't take anything else. It is who I am. That's how I play the game, and that's my mentality. If you don't want to play that way, don't play that way. Everything's personal. This is your team. This is your baby. And if you don't want to play that way, don't play that way. Go hold hands, make excuses, and collect participation trophies. But you can't play on my team. So now that we've identified religion, making your parents proud, and identifying your commandments, and verbalizing them, let's talk about how they come into play as your business and my business evolves. Because as they say, you either evolve or you perish. And we've seen that Blockbuster. So how do you instill your work ethic into your employees? I think that's the most important thing that you can do for Evolution, is instilling your work ethic, and we all have confidence in our work ethic into our employees. A friend of mine during the second lockdown said, and he saw that I was really getting dejected and I was getting tired. He said, jockeys matter. And you're the jockey for this job. And you think about that. Now, the horses change every year, the Preakness, and they change every year, the Kentucky Derby, but the jockey's role is the same. And that's not a coincidence. Jockeys matter. The jockey has to get the horse past the finish line. We are the jockeys in our businesses. So whether you realize it or not, you're constantly under a microscope. You're always being watched. We don't get the luxury of having an off day. You know, we don't get the luxury of having a bad hair day. You are the gold standard. You are the alpha. You are the omega. You are the end-all and be-all of your company. So when you let your appearance and your behavior become compromised, your leadership instantly loses credibility, and your words are empty. So you got to be the first one in. You got to be the last one out. As you create a habit, it becomes a way of life, and you start to motivate your employees. You make them believe in you. You make them want to be part of something special, something bigger than them, and most importantly, you create a sense of security. They know they're safe with you. They believe in you. Now that you have a great team, you're able to expand and grow. If you're loyal to your employees, they will be loyal to you. So during COVID, obviously, everything in my business went out the window. It was erased. At the time, we had 120 employees. We are at 116 and growing now. But, you know, I'll never forget when Governor Hogan announced that restaurants and bars had closed down. The only time that Jimmy's have ever been closed down throughout the 47-year history was on the day of my father's funeral, and we weren't even closed down, it was just closed to the public. We've always been open. now I'm being told I have to close down. I wasn't going to let the book of Jimmy's close this way. I knew that it had to be just the next chapter. And, looking back on it in hindsight, it's definitely the most rewarding chapter, and it was definitely the hardest chapter. But it didn't happen by coincidence. I didn't know what the world was going to look like. I didn't know what the rules were going to be. But I did know, because of my values, because of my hard work, that when the dust settled, we'd be the ones on top. So the next morning, by noon, I knew it was time to adapt. We had 4 food trucks on the road. We had a curbside delivery system ready. We were selling drinks to go. We were creating T-shirts for our staff to make money. And we had a warehouse ready to ship crack cakes all over the country. Failure just wasn't an option. I had a flashback to when my dad died. Either you make it, or you're going to be on the street. When my dad died. And once again with COVID, either you figure this out, or you're going to be on the street. Here we are, 17 years later, back to square one, with a lot more gray hair. But I got that feeling when I closed my eyes, and it was time to go back to work. We kept all of our employees on, gave them all free meals from our meal prep line through the entirety of the pandemic, and we made sure they were financially set. Obviously, they were scared. I promised them if they were willing to put in the work, they had my word that everything was going to be fine. While other people in our industry were taking much deserved, don't get me wrong, vacations during this time, and my fiance was very excited she was going to be seeing me more. It was quite the opposite. I worked more than her. I was in there at 7, and I was out of there at 2, because things were a lot different, and I knew I had to set the example. Going back to MJ, you guys can see the effect that he's had on me. And once again, in the documentary, he said, the one thing about Michael Jordan, you ask any one of my teammates, he never asked me to do something that he didn't fucking do himself. And I've done it all. My dad raised me that way. I scrubbed toilets at Jimmy's. I was promoted to a dishwasher. I promoted to a busboy, waiter, bartender, the only way. The same way probably 98% of this room has worked their way up. It's the only way to do it. So you would not ask somebody next to you or below you on the chain to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. And that's the true sign of a leader, the true sign of evolution. So we never missed a beat at Jimmy's. Numbers stayed good. Simply put, we did whatever it took to survive. Since then, we adapted. We created 2 new outdoor areas. We created a manufacturing facility, a mobile crab screening unit. We entered Nationals Ballpark. We entered that partnership, as mentioned, with McCormick and Old Bay Spice. And it's not public knowledge yet, but next week we enter a partnership with the Ravens. So we go into the stadium, so everybody finally get your food at the stadium. And this all happened during COVID, which is fucking nuts. Like, this is nuts. Me sitting up here talking about this, even when the words are written on this paper, it's fucking nuts. And I draw motivation from guys like David Bowie, who's the musician, who always a professional wrestler, who always evolved. It's not just about evolving, right? It's about having a consistently elite product while you can change your appearance, keep your name relevant, and find ways to continue to reinvent yourself. But the message has to be there. The values have to be there. You have the trust of the public. And now you can take that next step. So knowing people were at home more, we were creating podcasts, we were creating web series, we were creating opportunities for our bartenders to make drinks online, to get tips, and we let people become even more in love with our brand. We peeled the curtain back for them because we knew everybody was home. And then the thing that I'm most proud of during the pandemic is we never changed who we were. We never stopped giving back. And it goes back to what I learned at Loyola, and it goes back to my parents. I remember my dad always showing me that $7,000 check that he was cutting, which at the time was a lot of money. And I knew that he believed in me, and at this place,
message that resonates with me and gets me through life. And it always taught me to give back. And that place changed my life. And, you know, I did get in trouble at Loyola, but it wasn't, you know, I wasn't smoking pot. I was fist fighting and gluing quarters to the ground. So, you know, my teachers always took an interest in me. And even after my dad died, after I graduated, they were there for me. So what did we do during the pandemic? We started giving back even more. We did industry aid where we fed all the employees in the industry, not just our own. We created hero aid where we fed first responders, we fed nurses. We did what we do best. We kept Toys for Tots going. Thanks to Kiefer and many other great sponsors, and we created an opportunity to donate tens of thousands of dollars to local charities despite being locked down. While the county was open, but different story for another day. And we created virtual concerts for the musicians that played at Jimmy's, and I paid them for full pay. They are part of our family as well. Once again, it goes back to the effect Roy Williams had. You know, if he's telling a kid that he's recruiting at age 16, that he'll be there at his game when he's 34, he'll be there. You know, when I tell these people to come play at Jimmy's for $200, $250 at Jimmy's, I never said, unless you're the pandemic. You have my word. I gave you my word. I'm speaking to my word. These are my values. This is who I am. Simply put, we were making vodka lemonade out of lemons, or as we say in Maryland, we made crab soup out of cold crabs. But it wasn't enough. You know, as I briefly touched on, you know, COVID did become politicized somewhere along the way, and there was a ton of my fellow competitors and Baltimore City restaurant and bar owners closing their doors for good. And the ones that weren't closing their doors for good were about to. So, you know, I started hopping on these Zoom calls with 60 and 70-year-old restaurateurs and bar owners who have been doing this their entire life. This is all they know. This is the only formula they know. And I saw a lot of my father in them, and I wonder what he would be able to do now, you know, if he was still around. And he doesn't know how to use the internet, and he doesn't know how to set up a curbside delivery system. He doesn't know how to set up a food truck. And that's what I was seeing in these people. And you saw, you know, these idiots from across the country saying, oh, just pivot, bro. Just pivot. You know, that's the word I hate more than pandemic, honestly. That's the real P word. You know, it's really easy for you to tell somebody to pivot when, you know, you're taking an unemployment check that's on steroids. You know, it's really easy for you to tell somebody to pivot when your income's not being affected and you're pretending to work on Zoom in your tiny ways. You can't tell these people to pivot when this is all they've ever known. You know, these people were desperate. They were saying, should I just open anyways and go to jail? I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? I'd rather go to jail than do what I've worked for my whole life. That's when the famous one was created, right there. And I hope that everybody's seeing the timing now. You know, the way I was raised, my morals brought the famous fund around. While it was spontaneous, looking back now, it was by design. You know, everything that I've done in my life, every influence that I've had in my life, brought me to this point. So the famous fund, it's something that we're very, very, very proud of, but we wish never had to happen. We not only did God's work, but unfortunately we did the government's work as well. We set out to save 5 businesses that we identified needed help, and we wanted to raise $100,000 for them when I filmed that 2-minute video, and we ended up saving 31 businesses and raising upwards of $500,000. I mean, I guess practically every celebrity in the world hopped on. It was really a testament to humanity, the good people that are still out there, and you know what this country, which I told you guys I love so much because it adopted my family, is based on. And that's people helping people that have good values sticking together, as we see in this room today. People like Marlon Humphrey from the Ravens played a huge role with the first $10,000 donation. Really good friend of mine, professional wrestler Roman Reigns hopped on and reminded everybody that it's nice to be nice. You know, we adopted that, and we love that. Rick Ritter, T.J. Smith, Kyle Ripken, Torrey Smith, all great names locally played a huge role in this, pushing it and getting the word out. And before you knew it, you know, we got a ton of national publicity. That's not why we did it. You know, we were on the Today Show. It made Baltimore look great, and that's what I loved about it. And there's one more person that I want to mention before I start wrapping this up, and he was also part of the Famous Fund. And the last time I was here in this room was actually at his birthday party for the soiree with OJ. And I didn't know how to tie OJ Brigance into this. But OJ Brigance is my role model. He is the fifth person of my five. And I really feel that he deserves his own part of this platform, whatever we're going to call this. OJ Brigance, for those who aren't aware, was a former Super Bowl champion with the Ravens, and he is battling ALS. They told him he wouldn't make it a year, and here he is about to celebrate a milestone birthday in a few months. OJ Brigance takes 3 hours to get ready for work, and he's never missed a day, and he's never been late. So what's our excuse? You know, look at a guy like that, and he's always smiling. He's been through hell. You know, I think I've been through hell. He's been through hell. And he motivates me. Anytime that I'm having a hard time finding motivation, I look at OJ, I look at that smile, and I know things are going to be all right. So looking back and wrapping everything up, and you know, writing this, I was asking myself, you know, why did I do that? And not that our work's finished by any means, because the restaurants are still struggling. They can't find staff now. They're paying ridiculous amounts in Baltimore City for permits. It's a shit show. And it all ties together. And that's this. And I'm going to leave you with this statement. This community and this town and the city has given my family everything that we have. In turn, I've given back and will continue to give back everything that I have. Thank you for having me.
We're going to have a few minutes for questions and answers. We're going to do something different instead in the last couple minutes we have. Dan's going to come up. Dan's got a presentation with Greg, and then when that's over, John and Tony are going to exit out the back door. If anybody's got questions and want to talk to John, we asked John originally, what do you want from this? And he said, I want the business community to come see me. So when you go to Jimmy's, as I do, you look out for John. And Dan's going to take it from here. I'm going to be the guy also.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, John. That was great. Really inspirational. I was looking around the room and nobody's on the phone. Nobody's looking down at their food. I was on my phone. Did you? Personally. But definitely captured the attention of everyone in the room. So I want to make a couple of announcements about the upcoming events. But before we do that, I do want to bring Greg Morgan. He's a commissioner at the Department of Labor for the state of Maryland, and he's going to make a presentation to John.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, everybody. So I prepared some remarks, but when you're one of the last people to speak, most of it has already been covered, so you were pretty lucky. But just real quick, you talked about personal. Walking back to my seat, I heard my name called out, and it was a guy that I've known. I'm 59, I've known 53 years, Rob Compton. We went to grow up in Baltimore City, went to St. Louis, New York, Mount St. Joe. Sorry. And you know, been in the business world for 35 years. I've only been in government 10 months, so I transitioned during COVID, got appointed to the commissioner, and my division oversees 24 licensing categories. We have some of the folks in there, accountants and some others. And the resiliency the Marylanders showed during this pandemic was amazing. We added 30,000 new professional and occupational licenses since the beginning of the pandemic. We extended a bunch, and we're still sorting those numbers out, but it's been amazing to So, I've had the honor of presenting in the 10 months 4 citations from the governor. And ironically, this is the second that I've done to a Greek family-owned restaurant. The first one was to a restaurant that after 59 years they decided to retire the Dimitri's over in Maysville. So I thought, man, that's kind of cool. 2 out of 4 is Greek-owned restaurants. A bunch of years ago, probably 7, 8 years ago, we were one of the sponsors when I was with Brother Services of the Ravens charity program, and they did all these events, and one of them was a softball game. And the softball game was at M&T Bank, and the offense played the defense, and afterwards there was a crab feast at Jimmy's family secret. So we went with my wife and I, my older son and his girlfriend at the time, and my wife got a table, which was huge, a long table, and we had 4 of us, and she sat, and then we went up to get drinks. And she comes back, and his family's there. And this guy comes up and he says, "Hi, I'm Tori. Can my family sit with you?" And she said, my wife's got this call. "Hi, I'm Karen, and yes, you may." And it was Tori Smith and his family. Well, my wife said, "Listen, you can sit here, but I don't want my picture taken." So it was really cool. It was pretty neat. A few years later, I met a guy who's in the contracting business from Cleveland, and we've had this battle with Cleveland Ravens for years, the Browns. So we do a bet. So we had a bet one day. But $100 worth of Jimmy's crab cakes, or $100 of burgers. He said, "That must be a lot of burgers." Well, I lost. So I go with my end of the bargain. Go online, order crab cakes. I'm like, okay, $100 crab cakes, $45 sugar. I said, next time we bet, I said, "You're coming to town, and we're going to pay." So anyway, this is a great honor and to be here. So I want to read a citation from Governor Hogan. And I'm not just JV, I'm fresh off. So Secretary Robinson was going to be here today. And Dan, you can hold that so I can read it. So she wasn't here, can't be here today. The unemployment insurance has taken her life over. Fortunately, I don't have that division, but so I'm the press off. So Governor of the State of Maryland, to John Minadakis, Jimmy's famous secret, greeting. Be it known that on behalf of the citizens of the state of Maryland, in recognition of, and it's frankly so small, your generous and dedicated efforts to help support Baltimore area restaurants that were financially impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. So everybody mention those words. In honor of your success in creating the famous fund, which helped raise over $475,000 for the benefit and support of more than 2 dozen local restaurants, helping to preserve, and this is really important, hundreds of jobs and make a positive impact on the future Baltimore hospitality industry. And as our citizens join together in expressing our sincere gratitude, we are pleased to confer upon you this governor's citation. And it's dated today and signed by Governor Hogan, Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford, and the Secretary. So I appreciate it. Thank you. This is a really big honor, and the fact that they've been around so long and never received one, I was amazed when we did the research. I said, "Yeah, we can't. He's never received this." So, congratulations. Nah, that's all right. When you were saying government did step in, I said, "City government." So, and the one thing, I'll part with a little motivation. We were fortunate in Maryland that our governor passed 6.5 years comes from the business world. And when the state of emergency started in Maryland, so did the recovery plan, the economic recovery plan. And he has always been focused on that. So for me, we had 55,000 licensees. We extended east, where we had 280,000 licensees total. And we tried to be business friendly the whole time. But as you can see, we tried to open up, and some folks didn't. So we really appreciate it. The hospitality industry got hammered, and what you did was amazing. So thanks so much. Thank you.
While I know it's not the finished product, it's looking pretty damn good right now for everything you did. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being here. So we're back. Mike started with we're back. I'll end with we're back. And all of the partners, founding partners, and everybody involved with Connects is very excited. We're going to have our C-Squared Connects event, which is for partners only, the first Friday in August. That is Friday, August 6th, and that's going to be at McDonald Consulting Group's office. And our next breakfast will be September 22nd. And Consolidated, which is my company, Consolidated Insurance and Risk Management, we are the hosts. And we are very excited for our speaker, Jim Rafferty. Jim, if you could stand here, he's going to be our speaker. And I'm going to tell you much about it because he's a much better speaker than I am. And all those years of working on radio stations or things like that have really trained me to do that. And you'll really be happy when you hear him speak. But Jim was in a situation where he became a leader by accident. And he wrote a book called Leader by Accident. And out of tragedy, he became a leader. And I'm really excited to hear about that, and you guys should be too. And so in a couple of months, look for the invites, and we hope to see you guys back here. And Tony Grubel was happy that he had the largest event, but I'm a competitor too, so he's number one now. In 2 months, Consolidated will be number one, one of the largest events. Thank you, guys.